Welcome to The Threshold, the podcast where we explore the hidden truths of ancient history and the unexplained.
Let's start with a simple question. What is the oldest monumental structure ever built by humans?
Most people would probably guess Stonehenge or the pyramids of Giza, and they'd be off by about 7,000 years.
7,000 years. It's a number so large it's almost meaningless. We're talking about a time when the last ice age was just ending, and in the hills of modern-day Turkey, a group of people who we thought were simple hunter-gatherers built something that shouldn't exist. They built Gobekli Tepe.
And this is the central mystery that has completely upended archaeology. These weren't farmers living in settled cities. They hadn't invented pottery or writing. They didn't have metal tools. Yet they quarried, moved, and erected megalithic pillars weighing up to 20 tons.
It presents a fundamental challenge to the entire story of civilization. The conventional wisdom was always that agriculture came first. People settled down, grew crops, created a surplus, and only then did they have the time and resources for complex society, art, and religion.
Exactly. Agriculture creates the hierarchy needed to organize large labor projects. But Gobekli Tepe flips that script entirely. It suggests the opposite might be true, that the intense, shared desire to build something sacred, a temple, is what actually drove humans to organize, to innovate, and ultimately to invent farming to feed the workforce. And recent discoveries are making that argument even stronger.
It's incredible to think this whole revolution in our understanding of the past was hidden under a gently rounded hill, completely ignored by archaeologists for decades.
Right. It was surveyed in the 1960s, but dismissed as little more than a medieval cemetery. The thinking was that the broken limestone slabs were just old gravestones. The sheer scale of what lay beneath was unimaginable at the time.
Until the German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt revisited the site in the 90s. He had seen similar artifacts at another Neolithic site nearby, Navalichori, and he had a hunch. He immediately recognized that the gravestones were the tops of enormous T-shaped pillars.
And what he and his team began to unearth was breathtaking. Not just one or two pillars, but dozens of them, arranged in large, circular enclosures. Some pillars are 5.5 meters tall. That's over 18 feet. These aren't just blocks of stone. They are stylized human forms with carved arms, hands, and belts.
And they're covered in these incredibly detailed reliefs of animals. Foxes, boars, snakes, vultures, scorpions. It's a snapshot of the world they lived in, a kind of Ice Age menagerie carved in stone. But the human figures are abstract, just these haunting, silent T-shapes.
The engineering feat alone is staggering. They were quarrying these massive limestone blocks from nearby pits using only flint tools. How do you move a 16-ton pillar without wheels or beasts of burden? It would have required hundreds of people, all working together with a shared plan and purpose.
Which implies a level of social organization and leadership we just didn't think was possible for pre-agricultural societies. You need planners, skilled artisans, quarry workers, and you need to feed all of them. This wasn't a casual side project. It was the central organizing principle of their society for over 1,000 years.
And then, after centuries of use, they did something just as strange as building it in the first place. They deliberately buried it. They filled in these massive enclosures with rubble and dirt, creating the artificial hill that preserved it for 11,000 years. It's as if they were putting a time capsule into the earth.
For years, the focus has been on what the animal carvings meant. Were they spirit guides, apotropaic symbols to ward off evil, clan totems? But a study that came out in 2024 offers a completely new and frankly mind-blowing interpretation.
This is from Dr. Martin Sweatman at the University of Edinburgh. He looked at one pillar in particular, Pillar 43, also known as the Vulture Stone, and proposed that the carvings are not just pictures, but a sophisticated system of astronomical notation, essentially the world's oldest calendar.
Wait, a calendar? How do you get that from carvings of vultures and scorpions?
He focused on a series of small V-shaped symbols. The theory is that each V represents a single day. Across the pillar, they seem to add up to a 365-day solar calendar, divided into 12 lunar months with 11 extra days added to sync up with the sun. It's a lunisolar calendar, the same basic system that many ancient civilizations would independently develop thousands of years later.
That is absolutely wild. So these hunter-gatherers weren't just observing the seasons, they were mathematically tracking the sun and moon. Is there a smoking gun for this theory?
There are a couple of powerful pieces of evidence. One is a distinctive V symbol carved around the neck of a bird-like figure. Sweatman's analysis suggests this marks the summer solstice, the most important turning point of the solar year. It's like a "you are here" marker for their annual calendar.
So they're not just counting days, they're pinpointing specific astronomical events. That implies a very long-term, systematic observation of the sky.
It gets even more profound. The theory goes further, suggesting the carvings also record a catastrophic event, a comet impact around 10,850 BCE, which coincides with a period of dramatic climate change known as the Younger Dryas. The animals on the stone, like the scorpion and the vulture, may correspond to constellations, marking the date of this event in the sky.
They're using constellations to timestamp a major event in their history. If that's true, it means they understood precession, the slow wobble of the Earth's axis, which makes the stars appear to drift over centuries. That's an astronomical concept we usually credit to the ancient Greeks, 10,000 years later.
Precisely. It's like finding a schematic for a steam engine in a Roman ruin. It just shouldn't be there according to our timeline of knowledge. Other recent analysis from 2025 also supports this, showing the enclosures themselves are aligned with lunar standstills and equinoxes, suggesting the entire site was an astronomical instrument.
So if these people had such advanced astronomical knowledge, it brings us back to that central question: why? What was the driving force behind this incredible investment of time, energy, and intellect?
This is where we get into the great debate about the dawn of civilization. For a century, the story was linear and economic. It starts with the invention of agriculture in the Fertile Crescent. Farming leads to food surplus. Surplus allows for specialization. Some people can become priests, soldiers, or artisans instead of just food producers. This leads to social hierarchy, villages, cities, and finally, monumental religion as a way to legitimize the power structure.
It's a stomach-first model of history. Solve the food problem and culture follows. But Gobekli Tepe, being built before widespread agriculture, throws a wrench in the whole machine.
A massive wrench. The evidence at the site suggests the builders were still largely hunter-gatherers, feasting on wild game like gazelle and aurochs. But, and this is critical, archaeologists have also found over 7,000 grinding stones and bowls. Analysis shows these were used to process wild cereals.
So they weren't yet cultivating crops on a massive scale. but they were harvesting and processing wild grains. It's a transitional phase. They're hunter-gatherers who are beginning to experiment with the building blocks of agriculture.
Exactly. And the theory Gobekli Tepe puts forward is that the need to gather large groups of people to build and participate in rituals at this central temple is what spurred this innovation. Building something this massive is a powerful social catalyst. It creates a shared identity and a logistical problem. How do you feed hundreds of workers?
And the answer seems to be, you start managing the wild resources more intensively. It's possible the first steps toward domestication of cereals happened not just to get more calories, but to provision the massive, ongoing construction and ritual project at Gobekli Tepe. Religion, or at least shared spiritual practice, wasn't the capstone of civilization, it was the engine.
It reframes the entire Neolithic revolution. It wasn't a purely economic or environmental shift. It was a cultural and ideological one. The desire to connect with the cosmos, to perform rituals, to build a sacred space. That monumental ambition may have been what pushed humanity across the threshold into a new way of living.
And for a long time, Gobekli Tepe was seen as this spectacular anomaly, a single flash of genius in the Stone Age. But recent work has shown that it wasn't alone. It was the capital, perhaps, of a whole network of sacred sites.
That's right. Archaeologists are now looking at a broader region called Taş Tepeler, which translates to stone hills. There are over a dozen related sites in the area, creating a vast sacred landscape. The most significant of these is Karahan Tepe, which may even be slightly older than Gobekli Tepe.
And it has the same DNA, right? The T-shaped pillars, the circular enclosures, the animal carvings. It proves this was a shared cultural tradition, not a one-off project.
It has the same DNA, but with fascinating variations. At Karahan Tepe, there's a much greater emphasis on human depiction. They found a chamber with 11 phallic-shaped pillars carved directly out of the bedrock, surrounding a sculpted human head. There are also faces peering out of the walls. It's more overtly focused on humanity and perhaps fertility.
Whereas Gobekli Tepe's humans are abstract, almost faceless. So you have this regional culture, but with different ritualistic focuses at different sites. One might be more about cosmology and wild animals, the other more about human ancestors and fertility.
And Karahan Tepe also challenges the idea that these were purely ceremonial centers with no residents. Excavations there have found domestic dwellings alongside the monumental structures. It suggests that these were living settlements, where ritual life was fully integrated with daily life. People lived where they worshipped.
Which paints an even more complex picture. This wasn't a cathedral in the desert that people visited on pilgrimages. It was a network of settled communities, each with their own monumental center, all participating in a shared belief system. We're not just looking at the first temple, we're looking at the birth of the first widespread religion. This story is constantly evolving. Every new excavation season seems to add another shocking piece to the puzzle. And the discovery from just a few months ago, in September 2025, is a perfect example.
Absolutely. During restoration work on one of the main enclosures, Structure C, the team found something unprecedented for Gobekli Tepe, a life-size human statue. This isn't one of the abstract T-pillars. It's a clearly identifiable human figure with a head and torso.
And the context of the discovery is what makes it so significant. It wasn't just lying in the fill. It was found embedded horizontally within a wall, placed there deliberately between two of the major enclosures, B and D.
The head of the excavation team, Nekmi Karul, noted that it appears to have been broken before it was placed there. The interpretation is that this was a votive offering. They were consecrating the space by building a symbolic human, perhaps an ancestor or a deity, into the very architecture of the temple.
This is huge, because while we've seen realistic human figures at Karahan Tepe, finding one like this, used in this specific ritualistic way at Gobekli Tepe itself, adds a whole new dimension to their belief system. It moves beyond the abstract and cosmic into something much more personal, like ancestor worship.
It strengthens the idea that these pillars were representations of powerful beings, and that offerings were made to them. This one statue gives us more insight into their actual ritual practices than 100 abstract symbols.
And it just reinforces the biggest lesson of Gobekli Tepe. We are only scratching the surface. We've been digging for decades, and as of 2021, estimates were that we had excavated maybe 10% of the entire site. Ground-penetrating radar shows that there are at least 15 more enclosures still buried under that hill.
What else is down there? Are there more calendars? More statues? Perhaps something that finally gives us a clue to the meaning of their symbols, a kind of Neolithic Rosetta Stone? The story of Gobekli Tepe is not just about rewriting the past, it's about the mysteries we have yet to unearth.